We've been trying it the way you mentioned, Bob, and we have the highest tax in the industrialized world on business.
Were you threatened by the House of Delegates speaker with primary opponents? Because I have both times, and I told him to go to hell.
Well, let me address this business who I work for.
But it's good.
That's the policy. That's the policy.
You guys want to argue next? You're going out for a drink. Notify the affiliates we're running over. Actually, we do have to go on to the next phase. I think everybody else is getting squeezed out a little bit in terms of time. But you may have noticed that someone surreptitiously and very discreetly stood up a wireless microphone in the center aisle, thinking that since everyone until the last couple of minutes was so disciplined in the use of time, that we ended up with a couple of extra minutes. And we thought we'd offer the opportunity of a couple of people perhaps in the audience, if you have a burning question that you feel hasn't been addressed, that you'd like to hear the future member of Congress, the candidate's address. What is it that you would like to ask? We have a taker coming in from the back.
Chris, if they could line up this way and keep their question to 1 minute and
Yeah,
not make a speech, just ask the question.
No speeches, just questions.
You know what, timekeeper, can you put your seat right here so they can see you? 1 minute. And if you could give your name and where you're from.
And who's
I mean,
what's the order?
Well, we left off last time, and now there's a little bit of an imbalance going on here. Bob, you got the first whack at the last question, correct? So it would go to Mark.
All right, first question.
Okay, my name is Rachel Sargent. I'm from Sterling, Virginia. My name is Rachel Sargent, and I'm from Sterling, Virginia. And my question is directed at Bob, but he can answer later. But what do you think of Grover Norquist and his alliances with the Muslim Brotherhood and how it has trickled down into our Virginia politics?
All right, we start with Mark South.
Grover Norquist is somebody I think we have to watch very closely. Frank Wolf, a couple of years ago, explained this in very eloquent form on the floor of the House of Representatives. I think he was also one of only 6 members of the House that did not sign his pledge to raise taxes under any conditions. I agree with Frank Wolf on that. I'm not saying that I would ever raise taxes, but never say never, because you don't know if there's going to be some type of an economic disaster in this country or a military disaster in this country. And I think it's important that we not go up there without having an open mind. Again, I wouldn't raise taxes, but I think it's dangerous to have somebody like, especially like Grover Norquist, that bullies people into signing an agreement. Our job is to represent the members of the district. We have to protect them no matter what it takes. So again, I wouldn't have signed that notice or that pledge.
What about his Muslim influences, the fact that he has meetings regularly with the Muslim Brotherhood?
Right, and there's a question as to where some of his funds go to fund some of these terrorist groups.
And that he's also sits on the board right here at Parental Rights, and it was told to me that it was an evangelical move as opposed to the fact that he also supports gay rights.
Right, and I agree that Frank Wolf said this is something that needs to be looked into, needs to be investigated, and I agree with that 100%.
Rob Lossinger.
Thank you, Rachel. First, let me also thank you for all the great work you do for the pro-life movement in Virginia. You do a great job. I think, Grover's had past associations with Jack Abramoff and other people in various government scandals. I think when it comes... Barbara. I think some of this crony capitalism that is infiltrated the Republican Party really needs to be confronted head on. And I think some of the alliances that he's made in the past, the one you mentioned with the Brotherhood, is very, very troubling and deserves a lot of investigation. But there's other ones too. And I think some of the work for the gay rights community is also very troubling. I think what we need here is a conservative that can go out in the general and articulate a strong conservative message and not apologize. And you raise a lot of good questions that need to be answered, I think. Thank you, Rachel.
Stephen Hollington.
Well, thank you for giving me a copy of Frank's new book. I've been a little busy the last week since you gave it to me and haven't read it yet. So I don't know enough about Grover's activities in that regard. I have told Grover that I can't sign his pledge, not quite for the reason that Mark mentioned, but because it's not conservative enough. I had this conversation with him where I said, hey, no problem with the first half of the pledge, not raising taxes. I understand there's only 5 presidents ever who've ever cut taxes in the 101-year history of the income tax. And every single time it's been cut, revenues have dipped and then surged because the economy does better, brings in more to the government. So there's no good reason to raise taxes. The problem is a little bit in the second part where he says, you never do away with a deduction without getting a corresponding rate increase. Well, that's fine for big deductions where you can do that, but for a little deduction like, say, a solar panel deduction where you couldn't do that,